start
It took
this.
me 2 whole tapes to tell how I met Daddy, but that I couldn't believe it.
Yeah. Oh, the first recordings that you made?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Once I get going. Okay.
So now you and Pops are engaged.
Mm-hmm.
When does Toby come into the picture?
When was he born?
Yeah, well, I know when he was born.
Okay.
But, there's a story
There's a background to it.
Yeah, there's a story that Lori asked me about. Said there was a time where you made a trip home from Tucson when Toby was a newborn.
Uh-huh.
What was that? What was in Tucson?
Well, we get married. Oh, so Daddy graduates. See, he signed up for the Air Force. He goes. They do it in phases, 3 phases. First, but he already knew how to fly, so he was home free.
Oh yeah.
But the second stage was a bigger airplane, more complicated, and so he had to buckle down. So he's gone. We're engaged because I had the ring by that time, and he graduates. They graduate. That's what they did. Mm-hmm. And the old gentleman went down for it. And so they're waiting for the assignment. Now they're pilots. And you can either be a fighter pilot or a bomber, mm-hmm. or you could be a teacher, teach kids to fly. Now, Daddy's 26 years old. And that was rare that he would have given his back teeth to be a fighter. Yeah. And because he was so quick, that would have been him. But they just didn't. They figured it's 26, you're an old man.
Oh, really?
And so, but by some happy chance, see, they figured this out. He ended up being a teacher. Well, he's not. He's in the States. So he's assigned to be a teacher in Tucson.
Okay.
He calls me up at Boeing. I hear my name over the loudspeaker. I think I'm building airplanes at Boeing. Oh. I think I've ruined an airplane and they're going to shoot me, line me up, because you're called to the office.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And what am I, 20?
Yeah.
20 years old. Very young for 20. And it's Daddy on the damn phone, but it's the military calling. Right. He says, I've got a delay en route, is what they called it. He had a week. Let's get married. I'd already had my wedding dress started because I knew we were going to get married somewhere on that. Right. And it was going to be a white dress with the veil and the church and the whole thing. None of this in the priest's house with a suit and that's it, and a hat. I wanted the whole thing. So I'd already started the dress. So I said, oh, yes, by all means. Says, I'll be there on what date. We had to get invitations. We should have phoned people. But we had to get invitations out. I had to finish the dress. It was a madhouse. So I had to quit Boeing on the spot. Oh. And I had no time. I couldn't work during the day and do this half the night. Yeah. So that's what I did. Oh, the pay was so beautiful. I went from $90 a month to $310 or something like that a month. Oh. I couldn't believe it. Boeing. Marilyn talked me into it. And she'd been working there a whole year. But I liked my office. It was so cozy. It was small, and I was comfortable. And of course, I saw the money she was making, but I was very young. It was hard for me to break away. I'd been there a couple of years, and but I finally did. She encouraged me, and it was real easy to get on at Boeing. As long as you were breathing in and out, And
well, during the wartime too.
Well, yes, they'd take anybody. They took me. So I quit, and he came home, and we got married.
And so you went to? Did you go to Tucson with him?
So he had to go back,
mm-hmm.
And so he did, and I'm left at home for New Year's Eve. Ooh. And so Marilyn had a date, and I said, Well, I could just go and just be at they were going to a dance, a big hotel thing. The big hotels did that. Yeah. And I could just kind of be, she says, you can't go out and mingle. She says, you just got married. And I said, yeah, but I'm sitting here at home. And so I did. She wouldn't take me. Just in the car, dump me, and maybe I'd get a ride home. I didn't have to say I was married. And nothing would, just go and dance. Yeah. Be out on New Year's Eve, damn it. And so anyway, I kept getting bounced. They took military on the plane. I had my ticket to join him in Tucson, but I kept being bounced. So that's why I was stuck there at home with Mother on New Year's Eve. And he'd already had a room in a hotel, and of course I didn't show up because I kept getting bounced. So I went down there finally, and we got a house. Oh, a shack, just a fall-down shack. The town was filled with military. They had a bomber base at one end of town, and Daddy's fighter, he was teaching fighter pilots. And so in little Cub, the smallest airplane. And so it was hard to get a house. And so we took a shack that was crawling with, who are these bugs?
Cockroaches?
Yeah. Anyway, and then Toby was started there.
Yeah.
And born there in the summer.
Well, Toby was born in
Tucson.
In Tucson?
Yeah, in the heat of summer, 2nd of June, at 115 degrees. But of course the hospital was air conditioned.
It's funny because I have a birth record of him being born in Seattle.
No.
No, okay.
Because he's the little baby we came home with.
Right.
And
so he's born in Tucson.
Now Daddy has been teaching for almost 2 years, and his brothers are in the war. Bob is the bomber over England, over Europe. Come on. And Bill is the bombardier over Europe. Dick is in the Navy, and Daddy wasn't in the thick of things, and it finally got to him. Yeah. So he asked me, the baby's just born. He said, I've just got to apply. He said, I'm older and they'll take me for bombers. And because he knew he couldn't be a fighter pilot. So he rattled around a few things and got to be a bomber and was accepted. So it was in New Mexico. Now, I'm still very young, and I don't know anything about it. I don't think they even have running water in New Mexico.
Right.
I'm probably thinking Mexico, not one of our states. And I wasn't going to take a new baby to someplace. He was just born. He was just weeks old.
Yeah.
And, or a couple of weeks. And so I said, I guess it's home for me. So instead of being with Daddy while he learned to be a bomber.
Yeah.
Because these are big
plane, yeah.
He has to learn. And and you have to find a house. And with I was young. So I came home. Daddy drove me home. We raced home in the car. We had already, by that time, bought a used car because we were there in Tucson for 2 years. Mm-hmm. And brought me home to Mother on the 4th of July.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah. I knocked on,
Go ahead. I
knocked on Granny's door. I didn't tell her we were coming. And I had Toby, his head was there, and I think his feet were just about there, brand new. And I stood there. Daddy stood back a ways, and she opened the door. Oh, she almost, she just dissolved. Oh. And then she didn't care the whys or wheres or anything, it was just clutch. And then it took me. And Daddy stayed again. And because anyway, and then he had to go.
Yeah.
And drive the car back. No. He left the car and flew back.
Oh.
Yeah, to his assignment. So that was that.
Did he went to training, did he ever go to?
No, he never got to the war.
Never?
He was trained. He was in a B-29, I'll have you know, the biggest airplane they made in those days. I don't know how in the world he managed to fly that thing. Ever seen the console?
Oh yeah.
Me. And but that was Daddy. He was a flyer. He was on the base ready. His parts of his squadron had already left. They were headed for Tinian as a, I think I have it right, it was an island close to Japan, because they figured they were going to have to bomb the hell out of Japan forever. And because they didn't know about the A-bomb. Is that what we called it?
Yeah,
But that's what the military prepared for, to bomb the hell out of the Tokyo and all the cities. So it's part of his squadron left, but his navigator had what they called there's a word for it, but it's a sympathetic leave, because there was a death in the family. Oh. And for some so he left, and they couldn't fly without their navigator, so they were grounded, if you will, waiting for the navigator. In the meantime, they dropped the first bomb. Oh. And then a couple of days later, the kid still hadn't come back, and dropped the second one. So then there was just everything halted for a while, and they fiddled and battled, and there was no point. They had some bombers over there just in case it didn't go right. Right. You know, but they figured they didn't need the whole shaboodle, and so he stayed, and they what do they call it? There's a word, I want to say demob. That's what the British called it when they dissolved everything.
Decommission?
Yeah, that says it, yeah. And decommissioned. And that was it. But he hung around and hung around and hung around until they did, because they weren't sure just how it would all go. Yeah. So he was the first one to go into the war, or the whole family, and he was the last one to get out. Ugh. Bob came home, Bill came home, Dick came home. And every time we drank like fishes. And they all came down to my house that I had here in Seattle by that time. And because they couldn't drink at home that much, because the old man had remarried, and she was not into that as a thing. And the boys had really to tie a few things on. Yeah. And so we'd come down and they'd drink here. I didn't drink so much, because by that time, one of Daddy's, well, you know this, one time Daddy came home on a visit, he would wrangle things. Daddy was an operator, and he came home, and first thing you know, that started Patty. So I had 2 babies before the war was over. And I had to, my friends, because he was just home briefly. I mean, like 2 days, and he was gone again. But he saw his father, naturally. Yeah. and my mother and my sister, witnesses that he was there. But my friends, you're pregnant, you know. I'm walking around and visiting with him, and I'm pregnant. Well, John was home, you know, back in... Oh, was he? Are you kidding? I had to kind of put down a few facts to them, and witnesses and the like. Yeah, so anyway, long story.
So there was a question to Mom.
Yes, well, there were soldiers all over the town, and Navy. We were a port, so the place was just full of military.
So, all the Tobin brothers were in the war, and they all, with the exception of Pops, it sounds like everyone else saw combat of some sort?
Yes.
And they all came back?
Yes, by some incredible miracle. Dick didn't go to war. He was always a medical person. He liked, in some way, and he ended up being what they call a corpsman. Okay. But in a hospital in San Francisco, and he was very young. I think he was 19. And what happened was, the worst cases in all the war would come right to San Francisco. They had the sophisticated hospitals, and he saw more crap than you could possibly imagine. He's a corpsman. Yeah. And the screaming, the yelling, the wounds, the deaths, the trauma. And he got to a point where he couldn't take it anymore. and he had to leave. He was there for, I think, at least 2 years, if not. And so he got an honorable discharge, and because he just couldn't handle it.
Yeah.
And came there. It's down